What up, guys? I'm back with my college football rankings for week 7. But before I get into it, subscribe to our channel to be entered in our giveaway at 500 subscribers. Dropping from this week's rankings are the Wildcats, K-State, and Kentucky, and they also go into the others receiving votes after some losses. But Kansas, Wisconsin, and Tulane are teams to watch out for, as well as these teams could easily jump into next week's rankings. 25, I have Air Force, and yeah, I don't think they're getting enough love right now. They're 5-0. 3-0 in the Mountain West so far, and they're playing good. Maybe they're not these big blowout wins and having a lot of tension, but this week is going to be their toughest game so far this year. Wyoming at home, and we just saw Wyoming upset Fresno State, and whoever wins that game more than likely will be ranked at this time next week. 24 is Miami. And the only thing I can add for this game is, what were you thinking deciding to run the ball with less than 40 seconds left in the game? Just take a knee, win the game, go to 5-0, and move on into a great matchup against UNC. But they blew it, decided to get a little cute, and didn't work out for them. Georgia Tech scored with 2 seconds left to pull off the upset. Now they go into UNC with not just that on their mind, but possibly, can suffer a second ACC loss to start their conference play, which would essentially knock them out of the running. 23 is Missouri. Tough loss at home against LSU. Really only lost by 3 here, but the pick 6 late derailed all those plans, and they got to rebound quickly. Kentucky, obviously got demolished against Georgia, but these two teams still have a shot at an SEC title as long as they can progressively get better and rebound from last week. 22, Washington State. They lost as well last week to UCLA on the road. It was a tough loss. They gave up 13 fourth quarter points, but it's the Pac-12. A lot of teams are going to have to play each other, so they're definitely not out of it yet. They have an easier opponent in Arizona this week, which USC did struggle with, but I think Washington State has a way better defense, so they can take care of business. 21 is Duke. They're moving up 3 spots because of all those teams losing, and they get NC State this week. It should be a tougher game, but should take care of business. And they still have Florida State, Louisville, and North Carolina all on the road, so this team might not be ranked for too much longer. 20 is UCLA. They jump back into the rankings after falling out last week, and that's because they upset Washington State at home. Dante Moore looked all right, just needs to cut down on his interceptions, but this is a running team. Carson Steele with 30 attempts and over 140 yards. He looked good as well, and they get another tough test this week going to Oregon State. Utah moves up a spot. They get California this week. And then the biggest question still for this team is Cam Rising. Is he going to play? He's clear to practice and whatnot, but are they going to put him in the game to take control? I think if he doesn't play this week, they're really preparing him for the USC and Oregon games in those back-to-back weeks. Notre Dame falls to 18 here, and this is just a tough loss for Notre Dame. They're 5-2 this year. They need to win out to get into the playoff, but they're going to need a lot to happen if that can happen. Sam Hartman played awful in this one, and in his 2 career games versus Louisville, he has 10 total turnovers, 5 the first time and then 5 at this time against Louisville. But the only thing you can take out of this is they got a lot of opponents left, and if they can go beat USC here at home, then this team might be jumping right back up into the top 15. 17 is LSU, and they rebound after a tough loss on the road to Ole Miss with a good road win against Missouri. Jaden Daniels played great. Yet again, Logan Diggs, another great game. Same with Malik Neighbors. And this team is a very confusing team for me because I think they still could possibly run the table and get to an SEC championship. But, I think they're out of the college football conversation just because of those 2 losses they've suffered already. Tennessee moves up 2 after their bye week, and they get Bama, Kentucky, Missouri, and Georgia here out of their 4 of last 7, and Texas A&M's coming off a loss against Bama, which they could have upset them. So Tennessee has everything in front of them if they still want to make a run at the college football playoff. 15, Oregon State falling 1 spot even after a win. They played great on offense, no doubt about it, but the defense struggled, giving up a 40-burger to California. And Cal probably shouldn't have scored 40 on this team, but it is what it is, and a win is a win. So you got to look at the positives here with DJ Uiagalelei scoring 5 touchdowns. And now they get UCLA, should be a tougher challenge in what should be a Pac-12 just slugfest. At 14, I have North Carolina. They're moving up 1 after a very dominant win against Syracuse at home. And they get Miami, at home. Should be a good game to really see how battle-tested ready this North Carolina team is. And I think they can win that game and possibly move into the top 10 at this time next week, as long as Drake May has another great game like he did last week. 13 is Ole Miss, and I got to keep him at 13 here just because of what they did on offense this week. It's more a rushing attack than a passing attack than it was last week. And they just squeaked by Arkansas coming off of that Cloud9 win against LSU is always a good sign. And they head into the bye, I think, very happy with what they've done so far. 12 is Louisville. And, this is the biggest surprise of the year, I think you can say, for on all aspects. Beating Notre Dame at home, huge win there. 6-0, 3-0 in conference play. And they do have kind of an easier schedule here for the next few games, so should coast to 8-0. But then, are they going to challenge UNC and FSU for the ACC berth to the championship? And I think they will. This team has just showed me week in and week out that they can struggle on offense like they did against NC State, win one 13-10, and then come out and put 33 on Notre Dame, who limited Ohio State to 17 points. So this Cardinal team is really clicking right now, and you can thank first-year coach Jeff Brom. Oregon stays put at 11 here, and now they dive into the tough Pac-12 schedule. Washington, obviously, on the road this week, but they still have Washington State, Utah, USC, and Oregon State. So 5 of their next 7 games are against ranked teams, and we're really going to see the Pac-12 bloodbath these next few weeks. 10 is USC, and they're moving down 2 spots in my rankings because you can't win in triple overtime against Arizona with Caleb Williams, possibly the Heisman quarterback, on your team. This is pretty much one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in a top 10 team in a long time. And let's just say Caleb Williams goes down one game. I think USC gets blown out by 30, and it's going to be bad. And I think this week they have to be on upset alert just because of that defense against Notre Dame. Bama stays at 9 with a close road win over the Aggies. And they really kind of shot themselves in the foot a lot on this one. 4 for 12 on third down. 14 penalties for almost 100 yards. Only 23 rushing yards. But on the positive side, Jalen Milroe found his top target, Jermaine Burton. They were hooking up all day, had a great connection. And if Milroe can keep playing like this, I think, by the end of this year, we're going to look back and say Milroe really was the guy from week 1. 8 is Texas, and I'm not dropping him as far as the AP and coaches poll do here because, this team was winning the game until 15 seconds left and almost beat Oklahoma here. And they're going into the bye, obviously pissed off about the result, but Quinn Ewers just had 2 costly interceptions when it mattered most, and that's what really cost Texas from winning this game. But you got to like what you saw from his supporting cast. Brooks, another 100-yard rushing game. Whittington and Worthy, 2 100-yard receiving games as well. But Texas, more than likely, if they can get back on track here and win out, it's going to be a Red River rivalry shootout in the Big 12 championship. Washington comes off the bye facing Oregon. And yet again, they're just like Oregon for scheduling wise. Oregon this week, USC, Utah, Oregon State, and Washington State. And just like Oregon, 5 of the next 7 games against ranked teams. But I'm more confident in this Washington team than I am Oregon, just because Michael Penix and his offense just seems like they're one of the best offenses in the country. And they have a good supporting defense that can stop top offenses. So if Washington can prove to me this week they can beat Oregon, and it's not by a last second field goal, and they kind of take care of business and fourth quarter isn't really competitive, then Washington might be in my top 5 next week. Penn State comes out of the bye facing UMass in what should be a beatdown. But yet again, this year is going to come down to the Ohio State and Michigan games. And if you split there, go 11-1, and depending on the Big Ten conference, how that shakes out, they could be in the Big Ten championship, or they could possibly be hoping for that 4th spot in the college football playoff when it's all said and done. My top 5 starts here with Ohio State staying at 5. And yeah, they won by 20, but they didn't really win by 20 if you watch that game. The offense showed up in the second half, and that's why it was such a big win. 27 unanswered points after Maryland took that 17-10 lead. They just shut them down. The defense played well. McCord had a good game, and Marvin Harrison Jr. had his best game this year. So I really think this Ohio State team, if they keep having these slow starts, then it's going to cost them one of these games when they play some better teams. And yeah, I know Maryland was undefeated at the time, but Ty and I talked about it on the picks video that Maryland, once the season keeps progressing, they're not the same September team where they always are. They're always good, and then they start to fall apart. But Ohio State this week has a tough matchup at Purdue, and we remember what happened just a few years ago, went into Purdue and got upset. So maybe they could be on upset alert here, but Purdue isn't as good as they were back then. So I don't think that's going to happen, but it should be a much closer game than I'm sure the spread indicates. At 4, I have Oklahoma jumping up all the way here after the big win against Texas. And, the touchdown pass with 15 seconds to go proved to me that Oklahoma is a very good team. And Dylan Gabriel, yes, he only had that one passing touchdown, but he got it done with his legs, scrambled out of the pocket, lots of design runs, really kept Texas on their toes all day. And that's what opened up a lot through the air. And I think this game is won in the trenches. Oklahoma just, really fought for those extra yards and those extra blocks. And I think that's why they came out victorious as they head into the bye. Florida State jumps up to 3 after Texas falling. And this game was over after the first quarter, scoring 22 in the first quarter, 22-0 heading in the second quarter. And pretty much since then, Florida State coasted to this win. I think they have an easy path to the ACC championship and possibly even the college football playoff. Duke and Miami are their only tough teams left, and Riley Leonard could be out for a long time. Miami can't decide how to win a game at the end. And Florida State here should take care of business against Syracuse if they just got obliterated by UNC. So expect Florida State to keep piling on these wins here as we go. At 2, my Michigan Wolverines here. I don't know if you can see it. Gotta rep the hat here. And they just keep exceeding my expectations, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I know they're going to win these games that they're playing. 52-10 against Minnesota in the Brown Jug rivalry game. It's just unexpected at this point. The offense just kind of coasts to wins, don't really have to show out to get these wins. And it's all on the defense this year. I think it's a better defense than it was last year. They've only allowed 40 points this year in 6 games. Yeah, so do the math on that. And they're allowing less than 10 points a game. And in the second half, they're even a better team, only allowing 17 points this whole second half this year. So when they make adjustments, they shut you out. And I think it should be the same thing against Indiana, another blowout at home. As the defense, with the 2 pick sixes last week, I expect, honestly, the defense to score at least once a week. And at 1, I still have Georgia here. And if this would have been a closer game and had to squeak out another one, probably would have jumped Michigan up there. I can't, because this team finally showed up and just blew out Kentucky from the jump. It's the best game Georgia's played all year. And Carson Beck looked awesome. Brock Bowers clearly going to be a top 10 draft pick this time next year. And Georgia, it just seems like they're starting to figure things out. I think they'll have another big game as they go to Vanderbilt, which is the weakest team in the SEC yet again this year. These Bulldogs, man, if they can play like this from here on out, then it's going to be tough for me to not imagine a Georgia-Michigan championship game. But that's going to be it for this week's rankings. Make sure you guys check back next week after some ranked matchups to see who I have moving up and down and if your favorite team makes the rankings. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.